5% what he has there. I don't help, no, just like, I think you can say I'm expert.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Harvard and our lecture series. For the last 1.5 years, we have been trying to make a journey on a series called Indian Languages and Literature. We started 2006 December with Sanskrit. We moved to Hindi, Urdu, Gujarati, Nepali, and then we broke for the summer, and again we started this year with Marathi, Bengali, Punjabi, and last month, Kashmiri. So we are in our 10th lecture today. You will see we call it different parts by Harvard standard as a semester. So we have 4-part series, each consisting of 3 to 4 lectures. So this is the first lecture of the 4th part. Now Sindhi. Sindhi is not only an interesting language, it's the language of an interesting people. India was known to the world when it was a colony by the Indus Valley. Indus Valley put the India's name among the civilizations of the world. Presently, however, there's been a lot of debate about what Indus Valley was, who the people were, what did they do, and most of all, did they write. Even though we have a lot of artifacts from the place, people have not been able to decipher them well. There are 2 schools. One school thinks that they're only symbols. Other school from India think they can read. Why this is important? It's important because the people who lived in Indus Valley should be the original Indians who became later on Vedic Indians, or what we call modern Indians. But that connection can't be done well. So there we come to the land of Sindh, the land of Sindhu, as Dr. Dudani will say, and Sindhu becoming Indus River, and Indus becoming India, and I occasionally being identified as a Hindu. All this has this origin in this little land called Sindhu. So we are thankful that we have a Sindhi scholar with us, a local person, a patriot of India, a patriot of the United States, who has been practicing medicine and has been active in literature and languages for all his life. Sindhi people are very interesting, I said in the beginning. That is, they're enterprising. Sindhi people from Indus Valley, they were from Babylon to Caspian, they had a whole spread of trade route. So the language itself had developed probably with huge influence from various cultures. Later on, when Islamic people came, that culture was further influenced by Arabic, Persian, and Turkish influences. So now what we are going to see is the history of this people through its language. And I learned they have an alphabet now, which has been developed about 100 years ago, or 19th century. So we have a celebration of this language, culture, and people. Interestingly again, Sindhis, as we know, are spread all over the world. And Dr. Dudani just told me that he was born in Sindh and migrated to India. And many of you probably had the similar kind of history. So with celebration of the Sindhi people who have maintained their tradition and language and literature over the time, and who have given the genesis of Indian civilization, we celebrate today the Sindhi language and literature. And as I said before, we are so fortunate to have Dr. Dudani with us, whom I know for many, many years, about 20 plus years, as a friend, as a mentor, as an athlete, as a poet. And we have many of you who are here who also have celebrated Sindhi in the past. In the format of our lecture is, we will, Dr. Dudani has a good friend, Mr. Parwani, a young man who is helping him in the lecture. And we have a lecture format. After the lecture, there will be short recitations about the portions of the literature, how the language is heard. And then we will open it for questions. So please use this forum informal, learn it. If you can contribute, do add wherever you think you have more knowledge or you think you have a comment, please don't hesitate. Treat it as an educational forum so we all learn from it. These lectures are done on behalf of the Department of Sanskrit and Indian Studies, where we try to educate ourselves about the research that we might undertake in future years. So in that, you are a part, and I thank you for coming today. The next month, we will go to Vedic literature, and I will mention about that once we finish this lecture today. So let us now welcome to Dr. Dudani. Dr. Dudani's wife is here somewhere, and Prakash Parwani, the family Dudanis and Parwani, for the lecture. Thank you all for coming. Dr. Dudani.
Thank you, Dr. Mishra, for that introduction. Today's lecture I shall divide into following sections. It will be introduction, then I'll touch the ancient times, turbulent history of Sindh, and the structure of Sindhi language, then the Sindhi Sufism, followed by Sindhi as a state language from 1852, then post-independence Sindhi language and the literature, and finally the recitation of the alphabet and little bit of Sindhi music, if you have the time. In Sindhi, welcome, Bhali Kare Aaya. The presentation is by myself and Prakash Parwani. On behalf of both of us and Sindhi community, my thanks to Harvard University, Department of Sanskrit and Indian Languages, and Dr. Vijay Mishra, Professor Gopinath, for giving Sindhi this opportunity. For us here, it is in the same vein when in 1967, Sindhis in India thanked the people and the government of India for including Sindhi as one of the national languages of India. We would appreciate if the queries, comments, and questions are reserved to the end of the presentation. We would not want to break the continuity of our thoughts. Sindhi was spoken by about 25 million in Sindh, out of which about 3 million were in India and about 500,000 scattered all over the world. In ancient times, early in 1920s, excavation at Mohenjo-daro near Larkana which is also my birthplace. Revealed a large metropolis with all brick structures, well-led city, a textile and other manufacturing center, trading with many overseas and overland regions. Even then, major portion still remains to be excavated with undeciphered script after 60 years plus of independence. It's a tragedy. There were 3 cities rebuilt on top of the ruins of the previous cities, all at the same spot, thus estimated to have lasted more than 800 years at the same spot. Many artifacts reveal relationship to the existing society and I'm sure to the existing Sindhi language. The deciphering may be easier if the experts concentrate on the Sindhi language also, which to my knowledge they have not done fully yet. This was followed by Rig Veda, which sings the glory of Sindhu River as a mighty male deity, as a vast sea, as a powerful river with very prosperous hinterland and all along its banks. It's a literal admiration for the nature and human development in Rig Veda. Sanskrit is a refined, as a literary language, must have had a form that common people used in those times. What was that? That's for the research people to find out. Later on, we come to Puranic area. The region gets noted when Shiva carried the corpse of his wife Sati. The sindoor or the vermilion from her head fell at Hinglaj. And Hinglaj is west of present Karachi in Sindh. Here an ancient temple of Hinglaj still exists, though in a dilapidated condition. Later on, Ramayana mentions the region of Sindhu, and in Mahabharata, the Jayadratha as prince of Sindhu Desh, at the behest of his wife Dushala. Her brother Duryodhan had dispatched 30,000 Brahmins in those days to Sindh. In those days, it was also called Papapurna Pradesh. That is probably fond of music, fun, and everything else. Maybe because Jayadratha had sided with Duryodhan and was killed, Sindh fell into neglect and disrepute. After that, we find that the Old Testament mentions in the book of Esther that the region was annexed by Achaemenian Empire under King Darius and was called Hudu and Hindiki. In Hebrew, that means fragrance. So the prosperity of region was even known in those days. Alexander defeated the Persians and after confrontation with King Poro, devastated Sindh, massacring all the teachers, Brahmins, and destroying arts, literature, and everything he could get hold of, because the king had not listened, accepted his advice or surrendered to him. Later in Vikram area of the Ujjain rulers annexed southeast portion of Sindh, sending again teachers, Brahmin, to the region in the 1st century BC. It was in 500 AD or so that Sindh was brought back in the fold by Sahasi Rajput rulers from Arabian Sea to Kashmir, the united Sindh. In early 8th century, the holy Jain scriptures speak of Sindhi as an elegant, with a lovely, soft and slow gait. It says people are fond of songs, music, dance, and feel affection for their country. So this checkered history was followed by turbulent times, and the tiding of history left Sindh in turmoil for centuries. The year 711 AD was fateful when the Arabs finally conquered Sindh, and after innumerable attempts in previous decades. They eliminated most of the upper classes, destroying the temples, the arts, culture, and literary institution. And for next 150 years, they left Sindh in chaos with no central authority, as they did in other places from Baghdad. The Arab generals who were left behind, the preachers and their lackeys with no ruled different parts of Sindh in their own chaotic way. The legend of the reincarnation of Varuna, the ocean form of Lord Vishnu, was born in the early 10th century as Uderolal Jhulelal, worshipped by Hindus to this day. He inspired Hindus to stand up, fight an overwhelmed oppressive Muslim ruler to the relief of all common people, both Hindus and Muslims combined. Sindhis regained their self-confidence. Hindu traders who had ships sailing to the Gulf and whole of coastal India prospered, and later day Shah Latif eulogized their courage and the longing of women left behind in his Sur Samundi compositions. The scholars generally agree that mid-10th century was the time when Sindhi assumed its modern form. It was towards the end of the century that Rajput princes converted to Islam consolidated Sindh under their rule, ushering in not only political consolidation, economic prosperity, but great renaissance of Sindhi language. The popular folklore of romantic tales are related to that period. They were all immortalized later in the poetry of Shah Abdul Latif. The blossoming of Sindhi continued for another 250 years or so with no written records, however. And that you will understand from what followed with history's tribulation for Sindh. The reasons for absence of any written literature are obvious. The history has been replete with invasions and occupation of Sindh by Shakas, Kushans, Sassanians, Huns, Walker wanderings, Scythians, Gurjars, and so on. Barring the last few tribes who merged with the local population and settled in Sindh, others were brutal, destroying whatever existed in the form of institutions, art, and literature. They were followed by Afghans, Arghuns, Tarakhans, who did the same, and finally Mughals under Akbar. Sindh once again was consolidated, at least a governing region. But in 1737, Nader Shah dealt deathly blow to the Mughal Empire, looting the whole region of northwest. From Sindh and adjoining regions, he took away the dancers, the musician tribes that came to be called Gypsy in Europe, designated by UNICEF now as of Indian origin. Thus, it was no wonder that there were no written records of Sindhi literature. Following the devastation, Sindh came to be ruled by indigenous Muslim rulers, but they made Farsi as their state language. They frowned on Sindhi language and writers and composers. Strangely, these rulers would not trust Muslim scholars in Farsi. Instead, they brought in Hindu traders who were expert in Farsi. These Sindhi traders from Upper Sindh and Multan region had established extensive trade and financial institutions in Central Asia from 12th century until the advent of British, stretching from China to Rome. Recent publications from Russian archives have revealed that part of history. These Sindhi Hindu traders ran the treasury and administration for the Muslim rulers who gave them the title of Amils. They became a privileged class of Hindus and contributed very greatly to advancement of Sindhi literature. Sindhi flowered among common people, poets who were mostly Muslim in those days, but initiated and followed the tenets of Bhaktivad or monotheistic devotional composition in their poems, even in early 15th century. Recently, Dr. Motilal Jotwani, who came to Harvard also for a year's attachment, he has unearthed some of those manuscripts from Agra and other places. Their poetry, like that of others who came later, expresses the craving of a female for male supreme being and was based on classical source of Hindustani music. The structure of Sindhi language. The British developed interest in Sindh and Sindhi language prior to their conquest of Sindh in 1843. They spurred the study of Sindhi by missionaries, military, and civil service personnel. Richard Byrd, Ernest Trump, George Scott, and others were the Orientalists. They all agreed that Sindhi belonged to the family of Sanskrit and Prakrit languages. Trump, a Lutheran missionary from Germany, later published Sindhi grammar, concluding that Sindhi was much closer to Prakrit than Marathi, Hindi, or Bengali, and had preserved abundance of grammatical structure that its subtlety of execution and inner strength by far surpasses the loose construction of other languages. The rules which grammatician Kramadeshwar laid down for Abhramsha can be clearly recognized in Sindhi language of today, he said. In 1851, Richard Burton in his book stated, "It may safely be asserted that no vernacular dialect in India at that time of our taking the country possessed more and few so much original composition." It is this inner strength and solid grammatical structure that has preserved Sindhi language through the millennia of vicious occupation and destruction of its civilization, arts, and culture. The closeness of Sindhi to Sanskrit has been explored and acknowledged by many Indian scholars since independence. Mr. Kadappan was also a member of the parliament in 1966, and while speaking on the bill for inclusion of Sindhi as a national language, he said, "Sindhi is one of the most ancient language. As a student of languages, its origin was even before Sanskrit in this country." Later on, Suniti Kumar Chatterjee stated, "The Sindhi was the product of Indo-Aryan language or Prakrit of Middle Ages. Sindhi has preserved the signs of all the stages of Old Indo-Aryan, Mid-Indo-Aryan, and Neo-Indo-Aryan languages." These are quotations of Trump, and others are from Professor Anne-Marie Schmel, Dr. Popati Hiranandani, and Dr. Motilal Jotwani, I'm sorry. I'll give few examples. In Sanskrit, the word is anas. In Sindhi, it is anaso, anas, anasi, which is same, and it is a kind, in Sanskrit it was a contemptuous for a non-Aryan person, whereas in Sindhi it is used in a way contemptuously also for lazy, crude, or thick-skinned person. Milk, the word milk in Sindhi is kheer, and so it is in pre-Vedic Sanskrit. Whereas in other Indian languages, kheer becomes a sweet dish made from milk. In Sindhi, for rain we say mi, Vedic is meh, classical Sanskrit is meg. In Sindhi, old is jur, in Vedic is he, in classic Sanskrit is jiran. Kishanchand Jetli translated one couplet from Shah Latif into Sanskrit. In Sindhi it is Vagar kayo vatan prit nachinan paname pasu pakhiyadan manhua met gano. He says that birds and the animals flock together and they have more sweetness among themselves. They stick together compared to human beings. In Sanskrit, as Jetli wrote, Vagar kirtava bartante pritara nachindant atamsu pashe pakshana manave bhayo mishthan ganam. excuse my pronunciation. There's certain special characteristics of Sindhi which Trump and others have pointed out. Trump says the Sindhi has pronominal suffixes which occur in verbs having concurred together either with the subject or the recipient. And Trump further says the use of suffixes constitutes quite a special, peculiar feature of the Sindhi language and distinguished it advantageously from the kindred idiom of Indian languages which are destitute of pronominal suffixes. Because of the suffixes, a single word gives us the meaning of a whole sentence in Sindhi. And these words are like Kerayais, Utharyais, Sumharyais, Maryais, Chichlais, which this was all done to a person and left behind. So the whole sentence comes in one word. George Scott observed, I was hitherto proud of the English language, as I consider more beautiful and very copious language in the world. But it was very vain of me. When I learned Sindhi, I found reduplicated causal verb and other points that gave to Sindhi beauties distinct from most Indian languages. Sindhi uses both tatsam, which is without phonetic modification, and tadbhav, which is borrowed from Sanskrit and Arabic and Farsi languages, like attar, itur. Both words are accepted. Mutak, mukut. Sindhi also has a vocal finals. When we write in Hindi, Ram, in Sindhi we write as Ram, Gopal, Gopalu. And also Sindhi has 4 implosive words. Not words, the alphabet is 4 implosive. All these 4 are present in Sindhi languages, whereas in other Indian languages, it is only 1 or 2. These are, when we deal with the alphabet, we should describe more, but I'll pronounce them. These are B, D, Y, G. All 4 are present in Sindhi language. From there, we'll take you through the sections of Sindhi Sufism. Why we call it Sindhi Sufism? Because Sindhi poets, largely Muslims, who combine the classical Islamic Sufism with Vedanta and the whole new category called Sindhi Sufism arises. It combines the Advait Vedanta with the Wahdat al-Wujud philosophy of Sufism. The devotional poetry in Sindhi has been known since early 15th century at least. However, from mid-18th to mid-19th century, so much and so rich, such a rich compositions were created, blending Vedantic thoughts with Sufism, that Sindhi Sufism was born. Shah Latif, the principal poets of this at that time, who roamed the subcontinent for more than 3 years, in company of sannyasis, yogis, bairagis, brought together the essence of Islam with that of Gita. He utilized the romantic folk tales of Sindh to compose enchanting poetry of a craving for a supreme being by a devotee in a female form. A poet becomes a female form. And hence, he based most of his poetry on classical Hindustani music. And he was known as an unflinching symbol of simplicity. I feel whatever I could collect, that following shlok from Gita expresses the characteristics of a devotee. Devotee who is who expresses belief in monotheistic devotion. It is from chapter 12, shlok 13 and 14. Adveshta sarva bhutana maitra karuna eva cha Nirmamoha nirankara sama dukha sukha kishami santushteha satatam yogi yatatma dharra nishchaya maya arpita mano buddhirayo madabhakta samay priyaha.
Was it? I missed it after that.
Okay, let me. It is that it's a person is selfless. Person has no bias against others. Person is friendly and compassionate to everybody, and so such a person who is steady in the happiness or sorrow, and he is without any egoistic or attachment, and he always remains calm. And such a person is very dear to me. Krishna says to Arjuna. So I think that expresses the character of any devotee or any poet who is devoted to monotheism and the devotion, and he becomes a devotee of Supreme Being. The Rasalo, or the compilation of the work of Shah Abdul Latif, which was initially done by Dr. Trump and later improved upon, and more was collected by Dr. Gurbakshani in the early 20th century, and also then Dr. Kalyan Advani later in the 1970s. Shah Abdul Latif starts his Rasalo with a quotation with his couplet, which is, to my mind, it is a translation from the first chapter of Quran Sharif, and in other subsequent compositions in the same Sur Kalyan and Yaman Kalyan, he borrows from Gita. So I'll recite both of them. First will be the first one, as Shah Abdul Latif says. I'll recite it, and he will give you a gist of it in English. Avali Allahu Alim Alam Jo Dhani Qadir Pahje Kudrat Si Qaim Ahe Qadim Wali Wahid Wahdahu Raziko Rabb Rahim So Sara Hai Sacho Dhani Chave Hamdo Hakim Kare Pan Kareem Jodyun Jod Jahan Ji.
In name of Supreme Being, Lord of the Universe, Nature's Creator since eternity.
From what I feel is which other stanzas, which I'll recite 2-3 stanzas at a time, and he'll give a gist of it in English. These are from chapter 7, Shalok 6, 8, 9, 26 of Gita, and also chapter 2, Shalok 28, and chapter 10, Shalok 8. But I'll recite this only in Sindhi. Panhai Jallu Jalal Panhai Jan Jamal Panhai Jallu Jalal Panhai Jan Jamal Panhai Surat Piriya Ji Panhai Surat Piriya Ji Panhai Husn Kamal Panhai Pir Murid Thiye Panhai Pir Murid Thiye Panhai Pan Khayal Sab Sabhoi Hal Manjai Malum Thiye Sab Sabhoi Hal.
He was water, the fire, the glory of life, the beauty, beloved all, joys from him.
Panhai pase panakhe, panhai pase panakhe, panhai ya mahboob, panhai khalke khu, पाणई तालिब तिन जो अल्लाह अल्लाह पाणई तालिब तिन जो सो ही सो हू सो अजल सो अल्लाह सो पिरी सो पसा सो वेरी सो वाहरू पढ़ाडो सो सड अल्लाह पढ़ाडो सो सड वरवाई जो जे लही हुआ गहीं गड बुधण में बथिया
Destroyer, creator, enemy and helper, beloved echo and sound, all one.
Following him and was Sachal Sarmast, another, the trio was called Shah Latif, Sachal and Sami. And the trio, Shah Latif from mid-18th century to early 19th century, and Sachal and Sami both lived close to 100 years, and they were young in 20s when Shah Latif was there, but they had a contact with each other. And compared to Shah Latif, who was, as I said, was known as the simplicity reincarnated, Sachal Sarmast was a defiant poet, and he was in a kind of a revolutionary too. He was defiant because he equated truth to supreme being and proclaimed an al-haq, that I am the truth myself. And this common greetings which the followers of Sachal even follow today, they will say, Haq Mawjood, Sada Mawjood will be the response. Which means the truth is prevailing and truth will always prevail. Sachal equated all the prophets and devotees together. I'll recite one of his such poems, composition, and also later on he says, people may say I am this person, I am that person, but I am what I am him, I am the real name. I am the real supreme myself. So there's no difference between supreme being and me. So one of his composition was Sachu Sai Hikro Kone Shak Guman. Sachu Sai Hikro Kone Shak Guman. Kathai Padhe Pothyun ta Kathai Padhe Quran. Kathe Isa, Kathe Ahmad ta Kathai Hanuman. Hairat manj hairan vidhai panjo panakhe. Elsewhere he says, Nanak Lachman mera naam, or which Madine hu Furqan.
Only one Lord, no doubt or question, as Christ, Prophet or Hanuman.
Then in another composition he says, I'll recite for you. Ko kiya chave aao, joi aaya soi aaya. Kiya chave aao, joi aaya soi aaya. Momin chave ko, kafir chave ko, la 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 la. Zahid nalo, zahir chave ko, शायर चवे को साहिर चवे आओ जोई आया सोई आया.
Some say this, some that, I am what I am. Some say Muslim, some infidel, I am truth.
After that, Sami, who also, as I said, lived for close to 100 years, both Sachal and Sami passed away and just before the British conquered Sindh. Sami was, in that same way, he was known as an incarnation of calmness and placidity. In his composition, he more or less translated the deep philosophy of Vedas and Upanishads into simple Sindhi language. He seldom used the analogy of folklore or any any such thing which was very heavily used by Shah Latif. But as I said, it is a simple explanation of Vedantic philosophy, and later on he combined that with his Sufism also. Two of his compositions. One is, in simple words, he goes to his guru and he asks, how did this world come about? And the answer he gives is that Guru, the Supreme Being, just turned on himself. So I'll recite that. Sansohi kupiyo achi muhje jiyame Sami chave he Satguru kathau jagat thiyo Puthi dei pan khe sakhiya siddh kayo Are konhe koi biyo Jal papoto jal re.
I had doubts and asked how it all came. He turned around and revealed like a bubble in water.
And another, he conveys that all the scriptures, Veda Purana Quran Kav Sabha mein soi soot Samjhi dis sami chave laye man mazboo जियां आकाश घटन में तियां सभ में साखी भूत को आत्मरत अवधू समझे हिन सुखन के. He says that Veda, Puran and Quran, they have the same thing, but in the last line he brings on the conception of a Holy Ghost, Sakhi Bhoot, saying that like there is a sky behind all the clouds, that's how the Holy Ghost is behind every living being. So at that time the Christianity had already come, so he brings that also. But as I said, he explains everything in a simple language without the other romanticism which is there in other poets. Then we come to the contemporary Sindhi. In 1852, modified Sindhi Arabic script, initiated by the British, was accepted by intellectuals of both communities, and Sindhi became the official language of the region also. Voluminous literature of all categories, both original and translated from English and other languages, was produced, and secular in structure for next 50 years. The beginning of 20th century was the rise of nationalist movement and of revival of religious Muslim consciousness. In 1860, Trump compiled the Shah Latif's Rasalo for the first time, later modified by Dr. Gurbakshani, and as I said earlier. And there was another prolific writer, Mirza Khaled Beg, who was of Central Asian origin but born in Sindh, and he wrote fiction, non-fiction, poetry, and anything one could think of. And he also wanted to popularize the vegetables in the Sindhi diet, which were not seldom used. So I remember one line of his poems was about tomatoes. He says, "Vah tamata suhna yaar police jehda patka paye bhajun ke to rang lagaye." And during this period in early 20th century, Sindhi Hindus continued secular poetry with patriotic and social realism themes. There were a very large number of writers, generally secular, some religious among both Muslims and Hindus. They excelled in fiction, non-fiction, short stories, novels, essays, and history, and collection of all the old compositions by such Shah Sachal Sami took place in this beginning of the first 40 years of 20th century. Among the poets, Kishanchand Bevis in 1920s broke the tradition of romanticism of a Persian type which was creeping into Sindhi. And also he made a big break from only, he composed on Sufism too, but largely was his going back to the nature, praising the nature, and also social realism. So, and his poem about nature became the accepted prayer in all the Sindhi schools before partition. Now, of course, they don't. I'll recite that is about nature. Sab kan तुझी सारा कुदरत वारा, सब कन तुझी सारा कुदरत वारा, निर्मल ज्योति नूर नजारा, निर्मल ज्योति नूर नजारा. कोटा कोट बनाए धरत्यूं, कोटा कोट बनाए धरत्यूं, सह सह सिज टंड तारा कतियूं, जिंजो अंत न पारा कुदरत वारा, जिंजो अंत न पारा कुदरत वारा, निर्मल ज्योति नूर नजारा.
All praise thee, creature of nature, benevolent light, enchanting sights.
His poem on social realism was about pray that poor man's hutment should not crumble or be destroyed. So I'll recite that one of those stanzas. Ja ahe jaye dadan varse vabal khan, thindi nazar bar jagrivi aj khyal khan, ono न जंखे आहे को जोखे जंजाल खां, हल्की रहे जहामत सोगी संदूकड़ी, जंहिंमें गरूर ज़र न सरासर सगे गिड़ी, अल्लाह झुरे मशाल गरीबन जी झूपड़ी.
Property not subject to mortgage or burglary, pray, let not this hut crumble.
No, it is just a gist of it. But it is the translation is the property which is not subject to any inheritance or mortgage, and also there's no security to be taken care of, and there is no egoistic about its value or its economic, financial. It is just a simple hutment. So
What appears as though that you are rendering
Yeah.
much larger in
yes.
than the English translation.
Oh yes, the English translation is only just a gist. Gist. I'm sorry. Yeah. No, it is. Then Hundraj Dukhayal, one of his students, became the most patriotic, famous poets of Sindh before the independence and partition. And his poems were, as I said, patriotic, calling on to people to stand up and revolt. So two lines of his, Thayo Thayo Pahenjo Raj, Thayo Thayo Pahenjo Raj, Drayo Drayo Dharyo Raj, Drayo Drayo Dharyo Raj, Mulko Asanjo Malik Dharya, Khape na Airo Jado Ravaj, Mulko Asanjo Malik Dharya, Khape na Airo Jado Ravaj, Thayo Thayo Pahenjo Raj.
Come, install your free rule, break the foreign rule.
From 1937, when Sindh separated from the Bombay Presidency and became a separate province, nationalism became dominant in Sindhi Muslim psyche. And from 1947 until now, Sindhi literature in Sindh has come to be dominated by generally secular composers, writers, fiction, non-fiction, and amongst them Muhammad Ibrahim Joyo, who's in late 80s now, and he's been a pioneer in creating the Sindh Literary Board, and Sheikh Ayaz was a poet who spent about 15 years in Pakistani prisons and wrote his famous jail diaries, novels, and short stories, but he's best known as a poet, the poet of resurrecting Sindhu Desh, and which has become amongst the leftists only in Sindh. Then they are very popular. I shall recite 2 lines of that. Sindhu Desh ji dharti tote panjo sisun nimaya miti mathe laya. Sindhu Desh ji dharti tote panjo sisun nimaya miti mathe laya. Kinjar khan karon jhartai, kinjar khan karon jhartai, tokhe chashman laya, mitti mathe laya. Duthub panjo, dehub panjo, duthub panjo, dehub panjo, maru shal milaya, mitti mathe laya. Sorry, it's a veneration for Sindhu Desh, that dust of your soil I'll put on my head as my decoration. From Kinjar, which is the lake, and to the Karanjar, which are the mountains and 2 ends of Sindh, I put you on my chashma eyes. The product is ours and the country is ours. So hopefully all the people who are separated will get together one day. Hundreds of writers of fiction, non-fiction have been produced on both sides of the border. There have been novelists, short stories writers, dramatists, non-fiction writers, poets, and both countries have now established institutes of Sindhology to preserve archives and conduct research and recovery of old manuscript and art objects. Several academies also exist to encourage and finance writers. Regrettably, in India, even though a large number of writers are there, the readership in Sindhi has declined tremendously. And so it has among the Sindhis who live overseas. Sindhi as a spoken and learning language has very limited clientage in India now and the rest of the world who are outside Sindh. And incidentally, I should mention there's an Institute of Sindhology in Chicago which concentrates on the study of Sindhu region. That is run by Mr. D.L. Gidwani, who's the brother of Bhagwan Gidwani, who wrote the book Return of the Aryas, in which he claims the Aryas went from India to all over the world and returned as Aryas in Persia and India. Anyway, so that is now we have time, so we shall recite the Sindhi alphabet.
All right. I'll start now.
Sindhi has 52 letters. 52 letters in the alphabet, out of which 40 are of ancient Sindhi or Sanskrit Prakrit origin, and the rest of are Arabic and Farsi origin. Prakash will recite the alphabet, and at places where there is implosive, which I talked about, and special composition of Sindhi alphabet and the language, I shall stop him and then elaborate on that. And if we have time, we shall have a impromptu conversation just to give you an idea how Sindhi is spoken.
Thank you, Doctor. Please correct me if I'm pronouncing wrong, because you are an expert.
Prakash has learned Sindhi in Sindhi schools in Pakistan, so his pronunciation, everything should be good.
I hope so. All right. Alif Amber, Be Bala, Be Bakri,
Hold it.
Be Bolero.
Oh, Prakash, wait. Okay. You will find that Sindhi consonants, 52 all, they are silent unless a vowel is added to them. In Sindhi, we do not pronounce ka, kha, ga like in Hindi. In Sindhi, we have to add something to the consonant to make it, to bring out the sound. That's why he's saying alaf, bu, be, balla, be. Be, as I pointed out earlier, is one of the implosive. You can try it if you like. Just separate your lips forcibly. B. B. It comes from the throat and B. B. Yeah, it comes. And in younger days, we were taught the correct pronunciation by teachers who had a little long stick of bamboo, and you'll get a little rap on your ankle if you don't pronounce properly.
Which word was this?
Be bakri, be billi, be billo, be babur, babu.
So the both balls are b.
No, alaf, they are separate. Alaf, be balla, be baba, baby. Okay, that is a b. And this is b, bakri, b, billo, billi.
And Billy is cat in the.
Sorry?
B. B, Billy, you said.
Be. Billo. Billo, billy, is billy is a female form, billo is a male cat.
No, there are two birds are like a b, Billy, you said. Or
No, it is one word, b. B. Okay?
All right. Bhe bholro, te taro.
Te in Sindhi is also te taro, and also tue. Tue is written, sound as a ta, but it is written in a different fashion, which comes, and that because it is the words, those words are from the Turkish and the other languages.
The thambo, te topi, the thicker, se sawab, pe pallo, fe fito, je jal.
Fe, hold on. Fe pito and fe, which comes later, is fanuso. In Hindi and is a fa, pa. In Urdu they write as pa and her together. But in Sindhi is pronounced as pa.
fa is after.
Fa is separate.
Sha.
Yes, fa. That fa is fanuso, faf, fikr, which is the fa because of origin from Persian. Those words and pronunciation has been protected. And whereas the pa, which is pito, pundan, pithal, this is separate. So those pa and fa are separate because their origin is different. Okay. Ja is separate.
But fa is below, so he gets the.
Yeah,
Well, it is a different sequence. The sequence which I learned in younger days because the teachers are mostly Hindus, whereas now they have. He has learnt, and in the internet we could get this. So it comes differently. So different teachers will follow the different sequence. Right to left, like a Hebrew, Arabic. Therefore, I said in 1852, the Britishers, before that, it used to be written in, depending upon the community you are, but Britishers combined it and they thought, according to them, that modified Arabic will be the best. Whereas Dr. Trump at that time also said, this is the most stupid thing because there are connotations in the Sindhi which cannot be written in Arabic. But right or wrong, for 150 years that has, and all the literature is only in that script.
So how was it written
So-
before, how was the language written before Arabic?
Before that, every community used to write in their own script. Gurmukhi was Devanagari was there. Then the old Banya, the business trading classes, they had their own called the Varnaki script, and then modified Persian and modified Arabic. The most ancient script discovered of 15th century was written in Devanagari by a Muslim poet. So it is multiple. The British somehow felt that this will be the best thing. And that has continued. At least a large amount of literature has been published and is available now. Whereas Devanagari, which is now come into India, there's hardly any literature available. So the government is encouraging the publication of both Devanagari and Arabic, Sindhi, but hardly anybody reads that. That's the whole problem. And there's no Sindhi being taught in any, hardly, there are very few schools all over India. But largely, whichever schools are there, but we'll answer your questions later. Let's finish.
Can I do like a small tutorial, like the way you know
Yeah.
your sequence? The point that I
Yep, I'm doing that.
found clear.
Right. Okay.
You could take some materials with them.
Okay. J jal, J jib, J jirki,
After J, as he said, J Jal, J Jot, J Jat, then he pronounced Ya, which is another second implosive. As I say, B, Y, G, and D. We'll come to those. But Ya is Yaro, Jibha. Jibha means tongue. It's not Jibha, which is, it's a Jibha in Sindhi. Yaro, Yar.
J jirki, Che chap, Che chatti, Janya,
Nye.
Nya.
Nya, Nga, Ra, Ana. These four syllables, they don't come in the beginning of the word. They have always to follow some other consonant.
No, this one. Yeah. This one. Yeah.
Nya, nya. Nya, nya. In Sindhi, we have a word for, in Hindi and Urdu, you have barat as the only word. In Sindhi, we have yanya and manya. It depends who's bringing the barat. If it is a male people, you call it yanya. If it is a female people bringing the barat, then you say manya. That's a nya. Nya cannot come in the beginning of any word. It has to follow some other consonant. And that goes for other word, nga, singo, rango.
Is that used to change the gender?
No, these are because these are the ancient Sindhi words which have those implosive, which are, as I said earlier, which are not, all four are not present in any other language of India. So it may be that if they were the people who are going to decipher the script of it, if they know these four implosive, maybe they'll be able to decipher it better. But that is just a feeling. Yeah. But there are specific words in Sindhi, the consonants, which are there, not there in other languages of India. So they must have come from some more ancient times, and maybe some of the artifacts recovered are related to those. As I say, B, Y, G, D.
He hatso, Ke khachar.
The kh, then kh is borrowed, is from Arabic origin. That is not a kh, it's kh. It comes from the glottis. And same way, later on it will be Gha, which is Ghair, Galicho, Gum, Ganimat. So the Arabic, it depends which is the origin.
De dal, de dobi, de der.
Then de is one of the other implosive. Dar means a frog, or dembu means it's a wasp. Dembu, or dad. Dad is a specific word in Sindhi for idiot or subnormal person, a dumb person. Dad, which is both implosive. There are quite a few words in Sindhi which employ just double words like the bibbu, daddu, bibbu, tattu, thattu.
De dal, de go, ze zaro, re rolo. Dr. Saab, how are you going to do this? Mari. This is again, it's a cannot.
Re is also one of the consonants which don't come in the beginning of the any word. As I said, nya, nga, ra, ra, they don't come in the beginning of the any word. They have to follow some other consonants. So we say re, mari, re, rad, re, sar.
Ze zanjir, se sadhu, she shihe, se sawad, ze zawad, te toto, ze zalim.
Now you might have, the sa has 4 forms in Sindhi. Sa is also with a 3, say for sawab, which is with the 3 dots. Se is seen, san, sado is half circles, half moons, then written as swad because it is from Turkish origin, but is pronounced as swad, which is sanduk, sabun. Now only the person well versed in Sindhi nowadays the Sindhis in India are mixing up the sa, and then sa is also written, as I said, in 4. You can go ahead. Sorry.
Yep. En anek, ge galicho, fe fanus.
The pronunciation comes in 3 forms. Alafu ak, then as hamzo later on, then an, which is from Arabic origins. So the words anak, ab, aro, they will start with the Arabic instead of regular, the a, which comes in the beginning of the.
Okay. Fe fito, ke kalam.
Then ka comes in 2 forms. Ka, which is kutto, karo, ka, which is like a Hindi. Then ka, as ka comes, which is from the glottis, which is the kalam, kaido, because that is again of Turkish and the Farsi origin.
Ka, kutto, khat, gadhe, garam, sorry. Garam.
That is ga, and then the implosive gero, which is a name for a bird like a pigeon. Gero, gun, the handle of the sword. Okay.
One is
Ga and ga. Ga.
and which is garam?
Garam is ga.
Ga, this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ga is garo, gun, the handle of the sword is ga.
Okay.
Then ng comes as sing, mung.
Sing.
It follows some other consonant. It is ng, which is there in Hindi and but not so in Urdu and other languages.
Yep, okay, let's. Goro, ning, lam, me, me, noon, nak, one.
Then another run also cannot be in the beginning of the word, so which is loon means salt, manak is the jam.
Vivadhu, he, hik, ye, yakko.
And another is a hamzo,
So-
which is in Urdu, but it's pronounced as a, and also that doesn't come in the beginning of any word. It has to follow. Hiya, kiya, tiya. Yeah, so it's pronounced as a, is called hamzo. So as I said, Sindhi has 52 letters and 40. Let me give it to you. Out of 40, there are the Arabic style as hamzo, k, n, and g, h, kh. These are the, and swad, zwad, tue, zue. These are the Arabic origin, and the Persian or Farsi origin are z, s, z, and f. These are called the dentals, or t, th, d, dh, n, s, r, l. Labials are called b, b, bh, p, f, m, v. And as I said, none of the Sindhi consonants have a sound. They have sound only when a half a vowel or full vowel is added to them.
How about the labial
U
There's no there.
is a w. Yeah.
Which is this one.
But that's labial.
Yes. W. Now we'll
Do the
give
dua.
you impromptu conversation. We'll have just a few sentences. प्रकाश तोखे छा थियो अक्सर ई नथो अचे घणनि ॾींहनि खां गुम थी वियो आहीं काॾे हलियो वें छा ॿाहिरि
साईं वियोसि हांगकांग साली जी शादी हुई
साले जी शादी
साली जी
सालीअ जी
हा।
वो त चढ़ ते आहे
हा बसि छा करनि
ॿिया-
सौरनि जाम ख़िदमत कई आहे
अच्छा केर केर हितां ॿिया बि विया मिट माइट गॾिजी
हा चाचो सौट मासात
अच्छा सभई गॾिजी विया हुआ
सभई वियासीं
हड़ई
हा
पोइ घुमी फिरी खटी खाई आयो
हा सुठो थियो 2 हफ़्तनि लाइ वियासीं हांगकांग शादी हुई
तंहिंखां पोइ ॿिए हिन पासे बि वियो की
न न टाइम ई कोन हो ॿिए पासे वञण जो
अच्छा
हा
पोइ हाणे मोटी आयो त पोइ हिते कुझु मजलस वग़ैरह कुझु शादमाना कुझु वधाई हिते कुझु न कंदव छा अञा
जंहिंजा ॿार हुजनि हू कनि न साईं आउं त कोन कंदुसि न
हा साली तुंहिंजी जी शादी थी त तूं ई कर न so that's how but
There's some music you said, right?
no I'll recite the blessing which is my collection from the 3 main poets Shah, Sachal and Swami which and ends with the blessing for the gathering. I won't translate it. I'll just recite it. I'll give you a gist of it. First is a Swami who says, Supreme Being, we are very happy to see such a wide, prosperous, and joyful world. It's your creation, and then Sachal's words are that you are so strange that sometimes there's not a space for even a hair in between 2 people, and sometimes there is a whole wide separation that they just can't get together. But whether you call that Hindu or Muslims, it's all one. Then Shah's section, Shah's collection, Shah starts with that your strange is your creation, supreme being, and then he says there are tales in which rocks will float in the air, on the sea, and the leaves and the grasses will sink to the bottom. Such is strange is your creation, but you are so powerful and we feel so helpless, so you protect us and you bless us and bless the whole gathering. And this connotation of Shah allegory from where the rocks float is because in Ramayana you have rocks for floating, and that's how they reached Lanka. And King Bali had taken the whole forest and the grasses and everything to the bottom of the ocean, and they would not come up. So it is, which means that Shah Latif was very familiar not only with Gita, the other epics and everything else. So, starting with Sami. Kudrat ka dar tuhji disi man thare Kathe sultanan jo sultan the ta kathe dar dar bikh kare O kathe lakh lutaye di hame ta kathe kodiya kaan mare kathe surat jo sardar the Sami mohe zo kazare Kathai with navar ji Thi kathai judai Kathai vehe takhtate Thi kathai gadai Andar bahir hekdo Ahe surat sabhai Kafir momin hekdo Sachu bod jibiyai Sahib tuhji sahibi Ajab dithi su Pan bode patal mein Alhaye pahan tare tu Jekar ache mu ta mera iman laha Mitho jiya nalo tiyamu vado asro ko daruna hai jiho mu byadar ghana niharya O satur kar satar aao ughadi ahiyan O dhake dhakanhar dei pandu padajo Jedo tunjo na bajab Odyai banga Re thambhe re thuniye Tu chapar tu cha Aanko jaro kahan Malum tokhe sabka Sabka malum tokhe Tu jani jananhar Ye nimaniya ji aas Bajhakar baro chalte Shal jive
Okay, let's play. This is in Sindh. They play in weddings. We'll play music now, later.
This is one of the wedding songs in which before the marriage takes place, the boy is being dressed up. So that's says on that particular night, what did the bride wear and what did the others wear, and they were all covered with gifts. Called Lado. To get Julela?
No.
Okay. Well, you can go on www.sindhania.com. You can hear any Sindhi music of our ear. And if you have
First, thank you again. All right. After this great entertaining talk, I think let us discuss it. Discussion of the protocol that we normally do is you identify yourself by your name or any affiliation you may have with Harvard or any other university institution, and then state your question or comment. Again, this forum is for public, so say it. If you have something to add to the lecture, any part, religion, culture, music, sound, anything that you think you know about and other people might like to know, please say it. If you want to ask a question to both of the speakers, you might, if something is confusing, something you couldn't understand, please feel free to say that. And have as intimate and as open discussion as we can. Yes, sir.
My name is Gopinath. Many Sindhi names end with the sound ani. Is there a special meaning or significance to that?
As far as I know, the significance is it identifies now the Hindu community. Earlier, before partition, there were not many, mainly, as I mentioned, the Amils and the other upper classes of Hindus who were in government service and intellectuals, they used to be added ani. But later on, after the partition, even the business people and others they found to be identified as Sindhi. From Rajpal, they met Rajpalani. From Hotumal, they met Hotumalani. So like that. But origin is not been studied or accepted fully. But Bherumal Advani traced it to the Hindu scholars who were brought by the Muslim rulers to run their administration and others. Because those Hindu business people had traded with whole Central Asia, they found that in Afghanistan and Central Asia, the royalties always ended their name with ani. Duranis or the royalty of Afghanistan. So my feeling is they borrowed that ani from that. Then it became a generic for intellectual and upper classes of Sindhi Hindus. And then after the partition, it has become generic for identifying Sindhi Hindus. However, there is another variant in that in Gujarat and Saurashtra, there are people who are Bhimanis and other surnames which end in ani. It could be that because the Rajputs governed Kutch region and Kathiawar region of Gujarat and also Sindh, there may be this Ani's word came to and fro.
Painini. Ani and Ini.
No, the Ini is not Sindhi. Ani. That is Ini, that is Italian. Yes, Ini, yes. But there are, in Italian also there are Anis. Not only Pacinini but there are Anis too. But it could be that because the Sindhis, Hindus traded from Central Asia all over, from China to Rome and everywhere.
How about Panini?
Panini, it doesn't come in Sindhi.
Okay. Yeah, look.
That kind of script, back in the 40s and 50s, the students in schools, like in our part of India, we have to study as a classical language, Sanskrit. The Sindhis used to follow the same pattern of being Arabic or Farsi.
No, it used to be open. Arabic nobody took as a second language. In the Sindhi school, Sanskrit was there, and Farsi. Most of us took Farsi as a Persian language because then it was easy to. There was a wave of Farsi romantic poetry and writing, so it was fashionable to take up Farsi, and it was easier to read and write Farsi. I can read Persian, though I may not understand it, but Sanskrit, because of the Muslim influence and the local atmosphere, Sanskrit was not very popular. However, one thing related to that, you might find why Sindhis worship too much at home and others, because that goes back to history, that during rule of Muslim rulers right from Arabic time, nothing was permitted for Hindus to do any public offerings and others. Their temples are destroyed, so they became more introspective. All our ceremonies, most of our ceremony and festivities, we do it within our own house and among ourselves, not in public. After the partition and independence, of course, Sindhis, because of having prosperity, they have gone much more into every aspect of Hindu religion they could ever imagine.
I have a question as it relates to.
To the name.
Oh, my name is Naveen Bhalani. I have no education.
Another Ani.
Another Ani. I have a question relating Sindhis and religion. And as you pointed out, between Muslim Sindhis and Hindu Sindhis, there are, I guess, a group of Sindhis that tend to worship Guru Nanak. And what is the origin of that belief?
The origin of the Guru Nanak was as popular as Shah Abdul Latif. And of course he was before that. And Guru Nanak and his teachings found a very easy foothold in Sindhi Hindu psyche, but not in Muslim. And it became so much popular that in upper and middle regions of Sindh, the eldest in the family would become a Sardar, and the rest will be non-Sardars. He could shave himself, he could wear a turban, so you will find quite a few families still having their names end with Singh because of influence of Guru Nanak. Of course, because of the Rajput also there are Singhs. But Guru Nanak's teachings, because they rhymed and suited the Hindu psyche of equality of all religion and having so. And before the partition, for at least 20-30 years, instead of building temples, Sindhi Hindus built the gurdwaras. But they did not, except in the main cities, Hyderabad and Karachi, the gurdwara were run by Sardars. Elsewhere, the gurdwara was called Tikano. Tikano was by Sindhi Hindus who will recite Guru Granth Sahib in that and follow all the rituals, but not have any Sardars to run it. So I think the Guru Nanak, and at one time, before the 1852, Sindhi was people used to write Sindhi in Gurmukhi script also. And Sindhi, so Guru Nanak's teaching became popular, but they did not follow all the tenets of Guru Gobind and Khalsa sect and all that.
Nowadays, many still Masons are married in Gurdwara.
Oh, you can be married in Gurdwara, you can be married in Havan, you can be married by Vedic, you can be married just in temple by exchanging so long as you register your marriage. Sorry.
Yeah.
My question is about the geography of Sindh. Has it remained the same or was it larger before what Sindh was?
Well, if you see the Mohenjo-daro, the nucleus was in Larkana, which is northwest Sindh. That is where the Mohenjo-daro is, only 20 miles from there. Okay? And their hinterland was Kalibangan, right up to Delhi, and going down to Lothal in Gujarat region. So, and after that, Rigved talks of Sindhu as one region, which means all the hinterland along the Sindhu river, and in upper regions in Ladakh, Sindhu is also called Sindhu, still. And then, of course, the names changed again. Only in Sindh it becomes Sindhu river, and through Punjab it becomes a part of the five rivers. But in Old Testament, it's called Sapta Sindhu and Sindhu itself. So the region, and during the time when the Rajputs in the 7th century, they consolidated Sindh, it was one Sindh called Sindh from Arabian Sea right to the Kashmir region. And one of the ministers of this Rajput church, he usurped the throne and became the ruler himself. And in the Chachnama, which was written by the Arabic historian visiting, they said that he ruled Sindh from Arabian Sea right to Mansoor Lake. So that was a greater Sindh. Then when the Arabs conquered Sindh, they conquered Sindh as it is presently now. They left out the regions which are apart in Punjab and up to touching Kashmir.
See, the political boundaries are not limited, like India. There are kind of, you make some lines and so on, the administration. Because what they are saying is that the so-called Mohenjo-daro operation was way up to Rural and way up to the west, past Iran and up to Baghdad, the trade route and so on. And when I think about that, I think those people are Siddhis because Siddhis are tradesmen, right? So the whole, as you say, like the symbols that in the different artifacts they get in the Mohenjo-daro, they're not been deciphered well. It's mostly because the trade technicality. What they're saying is that the number of symbols are too limited to make a sentence, because you need so many structures from alphabet to make it like a communicable sentence. So the question is, does the trade, if you do pure trade, so you don't need that many symbols most likely. So that's the latest in the army research.
Alok.
Alok at that. Yes, sir.
My name is Sunil Abdani. So you mentioned earlier that how the Sindhis in India don't differentiate between the folk. So over the last couple of generations, is there like a different accent that the Sindhis in India have developed, or a dialect which is different to Pakistan? Would someone be able to differentiate?
Sindhis in India, because they haven't gone to, most of them haven't gone to the Sindhi schools and learned, so they are very poor when it comes to these implosive b, d, y, and also they can't pronounce the ng, nya, ra, run, and also ka and ka, fa and pa. So they followed. Sindhis in India, they are very majority know how to read and write Hindi and speak Hindi and English. Therefore, they follow more of the Hindi language or more of a Bollywood language. The result is they can't read and write the Sindhis, not only because of the script, but because they just haven't learned those consonants which are specific to Sindhi. And you can't, you have to learn them. Unfortunately, that's how.
But Sindhi is taught in Indian schools now.
Sindhi is there, but there are very Sindhi schools which are basic Sindhi medium with English in it closed down soon after the partition. After the partition, they started because Sindhis to survive, they had to go to. They thought the best thing is to go to regular English school and have learned a little bit Hindi or Marathi wherever you are. By the sites, but they concentrated on English so that they could get admission to colleges, get jobs, and do their business and all that. And that is the basic reason. And now they don't need Sindhi. In fact, but the urge is there, so there is a kind of revival. Certain cities, like in Maharashtra, Ulhasnagar, which is only 20 miles from Bombay, the Sindhi schools are still running. In the whole of Rajasthan, Pune also is Madhya Pradesh and Gujarat, Sindhi schools which are teaching the Arabic script, they have totally closed down. There are few Sindhi schools who use the Devanagari script, which is very tough to for them to learn, and because the teachers are also not familiar with all the consonants, so it's a pretty bad picture as far as Sindhi is concerned in languages in India and overseas too.
See, when we did Punjabi like 2 lectures ago, and we learned that 75% of Punjabi people are in Pakistan, and Punjabi is not taught. So the question is, whatever Punjabi we now know about is maintained by volunteers. In India, some of the schools, and so similar Sindhi. Sindhi is again language. All people are there in Pakistan, and all people are rest people are scattered around, and they adjust to the local whatever culture they get into. A lot of them in Hong Kong or whatever it is. All right, who else? Yes, sir. Tell your name and question.
Well, my name is Khalid Khatri. I was born and raised in Karachi.
Oh.
My family came from Chhattisgarh, which is
Mhm.
Karachi. So I make a few comments. But thank you, Dr. Dudani. It was a wonderful presentation and brought a lot of things to all of our minds and knowledge. A couple things. There are a lot of Sindhi Muslims whose name also end with Lee. Like I'm Khatri, but within Khatri there's subclasses, subclasses. We are realized, and my cousins are both on. Bakrani and Almani, who are also Muslim right now, in our Muslim family. Just to give you some perspective of the language on the other side of the border, I was amazed to know that in 1967, Sindhi got the national language status in India. In Pakistan, we still don't have that. It's a regional language, not a national language. There's only one national language. If you remember, in the 1970s, when Zulfikar became the leader of the country, he tried through the assembly to make Sindhi one of the official languages, Sindh, and there was a big riot against that. And the culture and the Kazakh is the only national language used in Pakistan. It has suppressed Sindhi as a language a lot. And just to give you examples from my own family, when I go back to Pakistan, I've been here for 25 years, how my nieces and nephews, they speak English, but nobody can write or read Urdu, Sindhi. They speak Sindhi at home, but nobody can read or write Sindhi. So I asked one of my nephews, do you speak Sindhi? In Sindhi? He said, yes. And I said, do you know
not to forget.
I'm sorry, I did not.
From the conversation you heard there,
No, I think Dr. Dudani's pronunciation is very close to what is spoken in Sindhi right now. But when I read Sindhis from who were raised in India, your pronunciation is a little bit different because a lot of influence of Hindi. Some of the words they use are Hindi, not yours.
I'm sorry, I did not mention the innumerable writers and intellectuals and composers who are there on both sides in Sindh and in India, because there are so many of them. So, but Amar Jalil, yes, he is one of my favorite short story writers. He's still, and
Yeah, I was wondering, Mahesh Varma, I'm Sindhi.
Without,
You mentioned, I'm sorry.
without Ani.
You mentioned a couple of, three of them, Latifa and Sami and
Sachal.
Sachal. They were all Sufis. Is that right? Enlightened people.
Life Shah Latif and Sachal was, Shah Latif was asked by Muslims, are you a Shia or Sunni? So he said, in between. So they got angry. He said, there's nothing in between. He said, that's what I am.
Yeah, but
And-
they were enlightened people.
Yes, yes.
From
And
what
such,
you said. Were there any Hindu enlightened people at the same time? Hindu Sindhis?
oh yeah, there are Hindus. If Tika Matai was there, he can tell you his father was a Sufi fakir. My,
He's a Sufi. I'm talking about Hindu.
yes, Hindu, they're so fakir. No, they are basically Muslims, but in Sindh, the fakir is called a Sufi fakir or just a fakir. My brother of my grandfather was a Sufi fakir, and he willed that after his death he should not be cremated. So they were confused. He didn't want to be buried. So finally, in Sindh, we have the followers of Jhulelal, also called Daryapanthi. So they put their bodies in, dead bodies in water. So he was floated and he was buried in water. So that's another, I did not go too much in details. Yes, there have been, like Dalpat Sufi was a contemporary of Shah Latif and others, and he was a Hindu, and he believed in total Sufism, Sindhi Sufism, to the extent that whatever he cooked in the morning, he will eat only on that day. At the end of the day, he will clean and also whatever food he had, he will distribute at the end of the day. He said that if God has created me, he is going to find something to sustain me. And he wrote in Sindhi and Saraiki, and I'll tell you one of his famous couplet was, Har shay de vich tu hi vasda, apna aap छिपाए क्यों, अपना आप छिपाए क्यों, पाप पुण्य सब तू ही करदा, दोज़ख बिश्त बनाए क्यों, दोज़ख बिश्त बनाए क्यों. He says you are there in everywhere. So what is the point of saying this is sin and this is punya, this is a good deed, this is a bad deed? And why have you built up so-called hell and heaven? You are all in one. Or Sachal says, Ram Rahim Hikro, the Ravana mein very care. If Ram and Rahim are one, who the hell was in Ravan? So he said it's there in one. He says, and as a Christian burnt ji kansaka cho bhatti meto where. And then why are you becoming Christian and taking your revenge and killing cunts? You are yourself. Why do that? This is the Sindhi Sufism. And there were Hindus also.
We have the prominent Kamar Bhagat, Sai Satnam
Yeah.
Das.
There are so many.
So,
Kamar
like-
Bhagat, and I did not deal with the musicians and other. They were called sants, but they were Hindus who were called Sufi fakir or fakir. Was it similar? It's a female form, the Bhaktivad monotheism. So they made themselves females or called it female. The whole poetry of Shah Latif He's a weakling, he's a Marvi, he's a Sasri, he's a Sueni, he's a Mughal, and he's a Lelat, and he's a Surat. So he becomes female form, which is the hallmark of. Now, how did the Muslims of Sindh in 15th century and before that or after that borrowed and continued the trend of Bhaktivad poetry and Bhaktivad monotheism in literature, and that's why the Sindhi Muslims of even today, they are different from the rest of fanatics and Islamists. Thank you, Dr. Khatri, for.
Yes, sir.
I'm Ashish Jethra, also a Sindhi from Ghana, where my parents are. I'm studying at Mount Sinai School of Medicine for my PhD right now. And I had two questions. One for Dr. Dudani, which was I wanted to know where we could find perhaps online translations of Shah Abdul Rafi's Risala, and also for Mr. Parwani, where you study Sindhi in Karachi.
I'll let him answer it first.
Okay. I studied Sindhi in Karachi and as well as from Mirpur Khas also. My primary education was in Mirpur Khas. So we had different, there are schools which were completely Sindhi medium. So all the classes like chemistry, biography, everything was taught in Sindhi. As well, there were English medium school where Sindhi was a compulsory language. Like you have to take one Sindhi language course. That was. In Karachi, we had option either to take the Sindhi language or not to take the language. But I was in Karachi also. Till my 10th, I was learning Sindhi. I'm not as good as doctor is. We're not that close.
Okay,
college is, you have to, it's optional. There are colleges where you can go Sindhi also till 12th. After that, it's not. But it's all optional. Especially in Karachi, right now there are very few schools who have Sindhi medium schools. Mostly they are English medium or Urdu medium, and Sindhi is as optional.
And as far as the college education in Bombay, there are at least 3 colleges which have a department of, and Bombay University has a department of Sindhi. And each of these 3, and other places, Pune and others too, they have a department of Sindhi and postgraduate studies. And late Professor Ram Panjwani, he became Padma Shri. He taught Sindhi in university and college as a graduate study. And he was the one who evolved this form of teaching Sindhi by recitation, singing, and translation, and talking about Sindhi. The form which I tried to follow, not as good as him, but I tried to follow that so that it becomes entertaining and understanding. And as far as Ashish, you go to the site ncpsl.org, the National Council for Preservation of Sindhi Language in India.org, and that has about 68 links in which you can get anything about Sindhi. And if you want to learn Sindhi language, you get Arabic font, you get Devanagari font, free of charge, and you can go to regular lessons of Sindhi on sindhiinfo.com.
Good. I think that anybody who's going to ask a question, the very quick one. It's 5 o'clock after. Anyone? Your comment is on
I have a comment and a question. This is short.
short one. Very short.
If you remember, in the 70s, we had a Sindh Century conference. It was a huge conference with scholars came from all over the world and talked about the language. Since then, in my knowledge, there's no such conference that is taking place. Is there anything that you know of?
How is Sindhi preserved? Sindh century and so on.
No, there has been no conference, but now we have an Institute of Sindhology in Gandhidham in India and the Institute of Sindhology in Hyderabad, Sindh. But unfortunately in Sindh and whole of Pakistan. Anything which is pre-Islamic is sort of cold shoulder. And that's one of the reasons why Mohenjo-daro, no excavations have taken place since early 40s.
Good.
They have an excuse of subsoil water and all that, but it is basically the interest is not there and the preservation is very poor.
All right, with that, can we thank the speakers? And we have something here from Mr. Gopinath mentioned. He helps me in publicizing the event. We have a few people from the country taking Thomas, Maya Day, Susan, and I want to thank them for supporting this event. Susan is the next speaker next month. It's called Basic Languages and Literature. What we're doing is we're kind of trying to connect with sounds. And what we think is Sanskrit is Vedas, but Vedic language is different than Sanskrit that we know of. So think about it. So Susan, our local PhD here from Harvard, will try to educate us. So until then, it's on April 12th. The same room, same time. Please do come. Have a happy spring. Thank you so much.